Advent A to Z, we're at the letter K for the three kings. Or were they? I'm going to talk about who they were, what's going on with the star, and the symbolic nature of the gifts that the wise men brought. And so we encounter them in the Gospel of Matthew. And it says that wise men came from the east to Jerusalem because they were following a star, that there was a newborn king and they wanted to worship him. So who were these men? Well, the Greek word is magi, which is where we get the word magician from. They were wise men. They were not kings, in fact, but they were consultors to a king. They were like the king's cabinet. They were advisors. They were oftentimes philosophers, very learned men. They would help the king with political decisions. And so it's easy to see over time that they got confused with kings themselves. Well, what about the star that they were following? There's been a lot of debate and interpretation on what in fact was the nature of what led them to Jerusalem and then Bethlehem. But the ancient early church fathers interpreted this as something supernatural, a supernatural phenomenon, not just a star. Because if we look back in the Old Testament, oftentimes stars are confused with angels and angels are confused with stars. And so the early church fathers said that it was perhaps an angel that led them. Because if you ever have gone outside and tried to follow a star, you're probably still out there wandering around, because whatever led them brought them to the exact house that Jesus, Joseph, and Mary were in Bethlehem. And the gifts, gold, frankincense, and myrrh. And this is where we get the number three wise men, or people say the three kings, because of the gifts. We don't exactly know how many came to Bethlehem. But the gold is symbolic of Jesus as not just the King of the Jews, but the King of Kings, the Lord of all. The frankincense, or the incense, is symbolic of a couple of things. It's Jesus's divinity, incense brought before God himself, but also Jesus's priesthood, Jesus being the great high priest, and the incense that is offered in prayer and praise. And then myrrh is the burial perfume, and this foreshadowed the sacrificial nature of Jesus's death, his death on Calvary, and then ultimately his resurrection on our behalf. So we look to the wise men to inspire us to always seek out the King of Kings.